Hello everybody, this is JT Productions and welcome back to another preview and prediction video. Today I will be doing the Tulane Green Wave. I have a special guest today.
Hello everybody, my name's Austin. Y'all can call me Paul. It's the second video I've done with him, so I think we're friends now. Don't know too much about college football, I'm not into it that much, but I love to argue about it, and that's why I'm here.
Fair enough, alright. So last season, let's do a little recap. Tulane went 2-10, 1-7 in the American with one loss streak against Memphis to end the season by 5. They lost to Tulsa in overtime by 7. They had a couple of heartbreaking losses. Lost to UCF by 4. Lost in kind of a blowout to Cincinnati, SMU, and Houston, and East Carolina. Lost by 7 to UAB in a blowout to Ole Miss, and by 6 to Oklahoma, which pretty much just broke their momentum for the rest of the season. So, how are they going to do this year? Well, Willie Fritz, their head coach, is back for his 7th season. And on the roster, they have a quarterback back in Michael Pratt.
Now, there's several things going here for Tulane early this year. You're already looking at a veteran head coach. They have their program in a spot where obviously their foundation's set. Coming back from last season, obviously losing that close of a game to Oklahoma probably set the tone for the rest of it. Don't really know if they would end up winning that game. Who knows? Maybe fighting for a 6-6 record. A couple of really close games. Expectations are kinda at a low, if you want to put it right there. But we'll get into that when we look at the season coming up.
Of course, they have some pickups on the transfer portal, including Day McDougal coming over from Maryland, and Lawrence Keys, who, if you're a Georgia fan, you remember that Notre Dame game. He kind of just completely burned us on defense.
Discombobulated the Georgia defense for a while there.
Yeah, he was pretty good. He came over from Notre Dame. They got a left guard in Prince Pines coming over from Sam Houston on the left guard spot, and they also got a redshirt sophomore transfer at, I guess, fullback or S-back or whatever it is. I'm just going to say it's fullback. And he's coming over from Colorado. So, get some Power 5 talent. So, that's pretty good for him.
And that's something that we've seen from the last two teams we've done. A lot of Power 5 talent looking for a bigger role on a team, a little lower than them.
Yeah.
But a lot of names in the transfer portal this year, and it shows from the last two teams we've talked about.
Oh, yeah, of course. On the defense, you get some experience back. You get one more experience for the young guys from last year on a terrible team. You got a DB in Jarius Monroe, junior transfer, who's projected to be starting on this depth chart, who's coming over from Nicholls State. So, you got some help there. You got a pretty veteran secondary besides, I guess, Nickelback. But, you can get help by your linebackers and defensive line, who you have pretty veteran besides a little bit of the besides defensive end and nose tackle. Sorry, I couldn't get the words out there.
From the outside looking in, if you're just looking at their roster like we are right here, it looks good. You got a mix of everything. You got veterans and just about, both sides of the ball. You got some young guys, good talent, transfers. Their roster looks good.
Oh, yeah. So, now that we've just bored you with the intricacies of the Tulane roster, let's just go ahead and get to the schedule and say what we think's going to happen. Week 1, they play the powerhouse of UMass, who went 1-11 last year.
Yes.
So,
I think this is a better way to start the season than they did last year in terms of, they're getting a playoff caliber team in Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley still there. This is definitely a better start. They're definitely going to feel good off of getting a good W right here. I don't think this game gets too close, UMass being the team and the stature they have. But I think it's a great way to start the season for Tulane. You see the 1-0, you see it in the win column, and, heads are high.
Oh, yeah. And I think the same thing's going to happen week 2 against Alcorn State. I don't think Tulane's going to be faced with a lot of, upsets, against lower classification schools like Alcorn State or anything like that. So I think you start out the season 2-0, get a better start, get your guys up.
Exactly.
Get them. You have a sophomore quarterback. You don't have to worry about having a freshman quarterback getting rattled. So I think you start 2-0 before you go into a big non-con game at Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas.
Now, I don't think there's a lot of room for upset right here. I think Kansas State is going to have one of the more surprising seasons next year in college football.
I do, yeah.
I do think so. And Kansas State, obviously, I think they're going to take care of business here. You're in, Manhattan. I mean, there's not much room for Tulane to do a lot of work here, in my opinion.
Now, I could see – the thing is, I could see Kansas State and Tulane this game being a close game.
In the first half, I think.
I could even see it being close in the fourth quarter. I'm not a big believer in Adrian Martinez, who's now the starting quarterback for Kansas State. And we saw what happened last year when Tulane faced Oklahoma in Norman. So, I mean, anything can happen.
And at a 2-0 start, you really don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is really – it could be a toss-up.
I do give the edge to Kansas State, though, in that you're on the road in Manhattan. They do have a more veteran team, and let's see, I'm pretty sure they still have their head coach. Yeah, because it was TCU that lost their coaching staff. That's right. Anyways, I think that you lose this game against Kansas State.
It will be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens here.
Start off 2-1. Then you face Southern Miss, who, like we said in the last video, is a newcomer to the Sun Belt.
I think it's going to be a tough year for Southern Miss.
It could be.
It just depends. It all depends on how they get adjusted.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we've seen they do have a little bit of talent here and there. They've always been, in the good range. I think this is going to be a fight right here. I mean, it wouldn't even surprise me if this game went to overtime. I'm going to go with Southern Miss here.
You think so?
Just based on what we talked about last video with them, I think they should be okay. This is their fourth game in. Maybe still a little early to say they're adjusted. They're facing a lot better talent here, but
they do have Frank Gore Jr.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at that. Tulane just, they're coming off probably a loss from Kansas State. Looking at last season, they get their hopes brought down, at a pretty good stature. So I'm going to go with Southern Miss here in a close game, a very close game.
This is the first one I'm going to have to disagree with you with.
Okay.
I think Tulane just in the conferences of the group of five, it's usually the American Athletic Conference is king, and then you have probably like the Sun Belt and the Mountain West probably next tier. It's just talent, in my opinion, is going to be better for Tulane.
Correct.
I do think with the coaching staff at Tulane being a little bit veteran, I do like Willie Fritz as a head coach. I think they get a bounce-back win against Southern Miss to go to 3-1. You got them at 2-2.
Yes.
So we'll try to keep up with that and not forget.
Now let's move on to Houston, Texas, baby.
Oh, this is going to be a very tough game for Tulane. I think Houston's a very good team. I think they won the they made it to the American Championship last year.
If you want to call it an upset, them losing, that's fine.
I don't think it's going to be an upset. I think Houston wins.
No, I meant in Hugers.
I think Houston wins this game
Now
convincingly.
they're trying to get into a Power 5, correct?
They are in the Power 5. They'll be in the Power 5 next season.
Yep.
In the Big 12.
It's going to be a rough game for Tulane.
And last year, they got blown out by Houston, so I would not be surprised if this was maybe a little closer. But I do think Houston gets the win and gives you your second loss with you being 3-2. Third loss with my buddy Paul.
Couldn't have said it better. I think Houston take care of business here.
Next, you have another tough game against the East Carolina Pirates. East Carolina's been on the upturn lately.
It's been looking up for them, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, they've been doing well. They have a big game at week 1 as well with them hosting NC State, an in-state rival, if you may. But I do think you have a good chance here. You have them at home. I think Tulane and East Carolina are close to around the same talent-wise. I'm going to take Tulane in this game for home field advantage. And let's see, and you lost to them badly last year. I think that's going to come into account. You have momentum, and I think you're going to want this first conference win badly, so I think you get your first conference win of the year.
Now, Tulane's going to come in this game very motivated. I mean, they're going to come, they're going to want this game. I may give Carolina the slight edge on talent. I think this is going to be a dogfight until the end. I want to say Tulane comes out with this on top. Because Tulane's a name Carolina is not going to dig into too much, because they do have a slightly harder schedule, in my opinion, but
I agree.
Yeah, I think Tulane can pull this one out. I'm going to go with they do.
All right. So I'm give a little update. I'm 4-2, and he's 3-3 at this point. Next up, you go on the road to one of the worst teams, in my opinion, in the American
in the United States of
yeah,
America.
With the South Florida Bulls. They do have Baylor's quarterback last year. I forgot his name. It just escaped me.
Bennett, correct?
No, not Bennett.
Not last name.
Oh gosh, what was his name? It was something crazy. Anyways, you have him. The South Florida Bulls do, but I think you go into Tampa and get a big win against the South Florida Bulls.
I don't think this is going to be much of a game here. Probably the worst talent on a roster I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm going to go with Tulane. Goes in there, takes care of business. Then they got a high heads looking up to a very tough opponent next week coming.
I agree. Then you have homecoming in Ullman Stadium in New Orleans, taking on the Memphis Tigers. Memphis has kind of been going to mediocrity lately since Mike Norvell left. They're still a very competitive team, in my opinion, but it's just they're
A lot of problems right now.
Yeah, they've been going downhill a little bit. With that being said, I think you get a big win at home with a lot of teams not really seeing this coming. So I think you go up before your bye week to 6-2.
Now, there's a lot that goes into this game outside of the football field here. Obviously, Memphis does not have a great foundation on their program right now. A lot of shambles, a lot of issues. On Tulane's side, they're coming in on a homecoming night. Energy is going to be high. They're going to be ready to get a win in front of their home stadium, and I think that's what they do. I think they go in there, take care of business against Memphis. It wouldn't surprise me if the game got close, but I think it's going to be decided in the first half, and I'm going to go with Tulane.
I agree. Then you have your bye week. This is at a good time. You have it split in between two pretty good opponents in Memphis and Tulsa. So coming out of it, you have to go on the road to Tulsa. This is going to be a tough game for them.
Terrible atmosphere in terms of Tulane. It's going to be, Tulsa's always had a great fan base. You're going to see a lot of colors, a lot of noise. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
Tulsa kind of reminds me of a little bit worse Houston team. They love to be physical, run the ball, have a good defense. I think you go on the road and get a loss right after your bye week against Tulsa because even though you're coming out of a bye week, you're not immune to losing games like this.
And I couldn't agree more. I'm going to give the talent edge to Tulsa here. I think they're going to have a little bit more talent, and I think it's going to be too much for Tulane to handle. Obviously, in their stadium, I think they're going to get rattled easily. I think this is another game that's decided in the first half, and Tulsa's going to grab this one right here.
All right. Coming out of that demoralizing loss, you play one of the pretty good teams in the American this year in the UCF Knights, coached by Gus Malzahn. They got a transfer quarterback in John Rice Plumlee from Ole Miss. They got a bunch of players out of the transfer portal. They got Kobe Hudson coming in from Auburn to be a wide receiver. I think UCF's going to come in here, take advantage of a big loss that you suffered the past week and just absolutely just demoralize you in New Orleans to give you your fourth loss.
And I couldn't agree. And this is going to be the start to Tulane's biggest stretch right here. A lot of great names. UCF obviously having Malzahn, and they got a good quarterback. Now we're moving on. They're a name for themselves. They've had a name for a long time. So I'm going to give this one to UCF. I think the talent just hits them, and then you got your lost to Tulsa the week before. I think it's going to hit hard right here, and I think UCF's going to grab a big win against Tulsa.
Carry on to the next week. I think SMU does the same. They have Tanner Mordecai coming into his senior season. He is one of the best Group of 5 quarterbacks in my opinion. He's just so electric, and I think him and that offense is going to absolutely just cauterize the Tulane defense after 2 straight losses to make it a 3rd straight loss.
And SMU's looking to have a great season of their own. I don't think this is going to be much of a roadblock in their triumph. I think I'm going to have them around 9-3, 10-2, somewhere in there. They're looking very good, and I don't think this is a big roadblock for them. I think they cruise past Tulane very easily, and we're moving on to next week.
Even though they lost Sonny Dykes, their long-tenured head coach who went off to TCU, they still have a good program there, so I think that's going to carry on to this year. So, going to the final week, you're on the road to the former, like I like to say, Group of 5 champion, the Cincinnati Bearcats. And I think at this point in the season, your motivation and your confidence is just going to be at an all-time low.
Tulane's not going to have anything left in the tank from the last 3 games. So
I think Cincinnati's just going to absolutely just ground and pound the ball. Even though they lost a lot to the draft last year, I think that they're going to adopt kind of a grounded pound offense to kind of ease their young quarterback into the offense, kind of being a great defense and everything like that. I think that you're going to go into Cincinnati and get absolutely embarrassed to finish the season. In my opinion, 6-6.
This is one of those games Tulane would love to have early in the season. Like he said, a lot of draft. We're losing a lot of guys right here. Cincinnati early in the season when Tulane's, they're full of the tank. Motivation's high. I think this would be a closer game. But how it is, the last game of the season, I don't think it'll be much of a game. Tulane's exhausted. They've been beat down 3 weeks in a row, maybe 4. Yeah, I think they take a big loss to Cincinnati right at the end of the season.
I agree.
And that will bring me to 5-7, correct?
That's right. So there you go. We have the Tulane Green Wave. I have them at 6-6, which is what's going to be going up there. But we also have my guest who said they're going 5-7. So
which either way, I think is a win in this season, especially coming
yeah.
off of a terrible last season. I think we're both being very generous for them. I think
Yeah.
they have room to exceed our standards. Will it happen? Probably not. But
who knows, man?
who knows? It's college football.
Of course, and if you agree with one or the other of us about the record, let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with the both of us, let us know down in the comments and what you think would happen. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and thanks to my amazing guest, Paul, for joining me for another video. He'll be here for the next 3 videos, and then I'll have a new guest, which y'all just have to wait and see who it is. Anyways, have a great day, and go Dogs.